Afternoon. You're listening to Ken Hudnall. This is the Ken Hudnall Show. Coming to you from our studios right here in exciting El Paso, Texas. Gateway to the Old West and the most haunted city in the country. Well, today is February the 11th, 42nd day of the year. Just 323 days until the year is over with. Holidays and observances. It's National Latte Day. Type of Sound, which is a festival celebrated in the Tamil communities worldwide. It honors Lord Murugan, the Hindu god of war and victory. Devotees, of course, believe that Murugan grants strength and courage to overcome life's challenges. National Get Out Your Guitar Day. Promise Day. International Day of Women and Girls in Science. Safer Internet Day. National Make a Friend Day. Canada's Agriculture Day. National Peppermint Patty Day. Pro Sports Wives Day. Extraterrestrial Cultural Day. Explores the mysteries of celestial civilizations. Who knows what you'll find? National Shut-In Visitation Day. National Don't Cry Over Spilled Milk Day. National Inventors Day. Grandmother Achievement Day. World Day of the Sick. Satisfied Staying Single Day. National White Shirt Day. National Foundation Day. It's a Japanese event known as Kinkoku Kinen no Hai. National Foundation Day is a public holiday in Japan. It marks the country's legendary founding by the first emperor, Jimmu. It serves as a time for the nation to reflect on its identity. There are traditional ceremonies as well as modern celebrations. The day is filled with various activities for all to enjoy and learn more about the country's history and culture. It's kind of a major event in Japan. Be an Electric Day. Random Act of Kindness Week. National Cardiac Rehabilitation Week. Have a Heart for Chained Dogs Week. National Hero Week. International Week of Black Women in the Arts. National Apprenticeship Day, a week rather. Tapati Festival from the Easter Island. It transforms Easter Island, they say, into a vibrant celebration of culture and community. Student Volunteering Week, World Ag Week, National Salute to Veteran Patients, Pickle Time Week, Love a Minch Week, National Green Week, Chastity Week, National Marriage Week, Tapati Rapa Nui Festival. That's another Easter Island festival. It's, in fact, said to be the most exciting and vibrant celebration on the island. Held every year in early February. It's a 2-week event. Brings the island to life with traditional Polynesian music and dance and competition. It brings the island's community and visitors together for a week, filled with music and dance and art. Love Dada Week, Heart Failure Awareness Week, Homes for Birds Week, National Jello Week, International Flirting Week, Children of Alcoholics Awareness Week, Great American Pizza Bake, National Kraut and Frankfurter Week, National Secondhand Wardrobe Week, and Freelance Writers Appreciation Week. Famous people born on this date: Thomas Edison, Burt Reynolds, Taylor Lautner, Khalid, and Sarah Palin. February 11th is part of International Vegan Cuisine Month, American Heart Month, National Snack Food Month, National Teen Dating Violence Awareness Month, Spay and Neuter Awareness Month, National African American Read-In, National Children's Dental Health Month, Human Relations Month, National Macadamia Nut Month, Feline Fixed by 5 Month, Exotic Vegetables and Starfruit Month, Berry Fresh Month, National Therapeutic Recreation Month, Marijuana Awareness Month, Financial Aid Awareness Month, National Goat Yoga Month. You haven't lived till you've done yoga with a goat. Adopt a Rescued Rabbit Month, National Mend a Broken Heart Month, Canned Food Month, National Wedding Month, North America Inclusion Month, National Black History Month, Renaissance of the Heart Month, Renaud's Awareness Month, Pull Your Sofa Off the Wall Month, Spiritual Teachers Month, National Senior Independence Month, National Life Friendly Month, National Care About Your Underwear Month, National Enrolled Agents Month, International Boost Self-Esteem Month, Free Open Source Software Month, National Sweet Potato Month, Fabulous Florida Strawberry Month, From Africa to Virginia Month, National Avocado and Banana Month, National Cancer Prevention Month, Cholangiocarcinoma Awareness Month, Spunky Old Broads Month, National Blockbuster Month, National Cat Health Month, Ethnic Equality Month, Humpback Whale Awareness Month, Dog Training Education Month, Declutter for a Cause Month, National Prevent a Litter Month, Creative Romance Month, and Affair to Remember Month, National Women Inventors Month, National Embroidery Month, Haiku Writing Month, Youth Leadership Month, Love the Bus Month, Jobs and Golf Month, Celebration of Chocolate Month, Potato Livers Month, Barley Month, Wise Healthcare Consumer Month, National Condom Month, National Self-Check Month, Pet Dental Health Month, National Parent Leadership Month, Relationship Aware Wellness Month, National Grapefruit Month, National Fasting Month, Low Vision Awareness Month, Great American Pie Month, Return Shopping Carts to the Supermarket Month, National Cherry Month, National Bake for Family Fun Month, National Hot Breakfast Month, National Bird Feeding Month, National Library Lovers Month, and Harley Quinn Month. Ooh, that's a lot of things being celebrated this month. Well, as I said, February 11th is the 42nd day of the year. And on this date, 660 BC, that's a traditional date for the foundation of Japan by Emperor Jimmu. Well, in 55 AD, the death under very mysterious circumstances of Tiberius Claudius Caesar Britannicus, heir of the Roman Empire, on the eve of his coming of age, clears the way for Nero to become emperor. 951 AD, Galway, a court official, leads a military coup and declares himself emperor of the new leader Zhao. 1144, Robert of Chester completes his translation from Arabic to Latin of Liber de Composition Alchemy, marking the birth of Western alchemy. 1534, at the Convocation of Canterbury, Catholic bishops comprising the upper house of the provinces of Canterbury agree to style Henry VIII as supreme head of the English church and clergy as far as the law of Christ allows. 1584, a naval expedition led by Pedro Sarmiento de Gamboa founds Nombre de Jesus, the first of two short-lived Spanish settlements in the Strait of Magellan. 1586, Sir Francis Drake, with an English force, captures and occupies the Spanish colonial port of Cartagena de Indias for 2 months, training a ransom and a lot of booty. Can't turn your back on that booty. 1659, the assault on Copenhagen by Swedish forces is beaten back with heavy losses. 1794, the first session of the U.S. Senate opens to the public. 1808, Jesse Fell burns anthracite in an open grate in his experiment in heating homes with coal. 1812, Massachusetts Governor Elbridge Gerry is accused of gerrymandering for the first time. 1823, Carnival tragedy of 1823. About 110 boys are killed during a human crush at the convent of Minori Observante in Villetta in Malta. 1826, University College of London is founded as University of London. 1840, Gaetano Donizetti's opera La Fille du Regiment receives its first performance in Paris, France. 1843, Giuseppe Verdi's opera I Lombardi alla prima crociata receives its first performance in Milan, Italy. 1855, Kasahelu is crowned Tewodros II, Emperor of Ethiopia. 1856, the Kingdom of Awadh is annexed by the British East India Company, and Wahid al-Shah, the King of Awadh, is deposed. 1858, Bernadette Soubirous' first vision of the Blessed Virgin Mary occurs in Lourdes, France. 1861, American Civil War. U.S. House of Representatives unanimously passes a resolution guaranteeing non-interference with slavery in any state. 1873, King Amadeo I of Spain abdicates, triggering the proclamation of the First Spanish Republic. 1889, the Meiji Constitution of Japan is adopted. 1903, Anton Bruckner's Ninth Symphony receives its first performance in Vienna, Austria. 1906, Pope Pius X publishes the encyclical Verimenta Nos. 1919, Friedrich Ebert is elected President of Germany. 1929, on this date, the Kingdom of Italy and the Vatican signed the Lateran Treaty. 1933, LAPD Red Squad raid on John Reed Club art show in the U.S. results in the destruction of a dozen political artworks. The LAPD Red Squad was the police department's anti-radical unit, and it crushed a political meeting and an art show hosted by a number of leftist organizations. Red Squad members had a great deal of fun destroying several works of art in a manner that suggested racial animus as well as an anti-communist motive. The event was a multiracial affair, which Los Angeles leftists had gathered to publicize the plight of and express support for the Scottsboro Boys. Now, the Scottsboro Boys were 9 African-American male teenagers accused of raping 2 white women in 1931. This landmark set of legal cases that came from this incident about racism and a right to a fair trial. These cases included a lynch mob before the suspects had been indicted, all-white juries, rushed trials, and disruptive mobs. It's commonly cited as an example of a legal injustice in the U.S. legal system. Well, I can give you several others that had nothing to do with race. It just had to do with greed. 1937, the Flint sit-in strike ends when General Motors recognizes United Auto Workers trade union. 1938, BBC Television produces the world's first ever science fiction television program. It was an adaptation of a section of the Karel Capet play R.U.R. that coined the term robot. 1942, World War II. Second day of the Battle of Bukit Timah is fought in Singapore. 1946, the New Testament of the Revised Standard Version of the Bible, the first significant challenge to the Authorized King James Version, is published. 1953, Cold War. U.S. President Dwight D. Eisenhower denies all appeals for clemency from Julius Nether Rosenberg. He was determined they were going to hang. Also in 1953, Israel-Soviet relations are severed. 1959, the Federation of Arab Emirates to the south is created as a protectorate of the UK. 1963, the Beatles recorded their first album on this date. It was called Please Please Me. 1970, Japan launches Oshima, becoming the fourth nation to put an object into orbit using its own booster. 1971, Cold War. The Seabed Arms Control Treaty opened for signature, outlawing nuclear weapons on the ocean floor and international waters. 1978, Pacific Western Airlines Flight 314 crashes at the Cranbrook Canadian Rockies International Airport in Cranbrook, British Columbia. 42 died and there were 7 survivors. 1979, the Iranian Revolution establishes an Islamic theocracy under the leadership of Ayatollah Ruhollah Khomeini. 1990, Nelson Mandela is released from Victor Verster prison outside Cape Town, South Africa. He served 27 years as a political prisoner. 1990, Buster Douglas, a 42-1 underdog, knocks out Mike Tyson in 10 rounds in Tokyo to win boxing's world heavyweight title. 1997, Space Shuttle Discovery is launched on a mission to service the Hubble Space Telescope. 1999, Pluto crosses Neptune's orbit, ending a nearly 20-year period when it was closer to the Sun than the gas giant. Pluto is not expected to interact with Neptune's orbit again until 2231. 2000, Space Shuttle Endeavour is launched on STS-99 to conduct a shuttle radar topography mission. 2001, a Dutch programmer launched the Anacornacova virus and infecting millions of emails with a trick photo of the tennis star. 2008, rebel East Timorese soldiers seriously wound President Jose Ramos Horta. Rebel leader Alfredo Reinaldo is killed in the attack. 2011, Arab Spring. First wave of the Egyptian revolution culminates in the resignation of Hosni Mubarak and the transfer of power to the Supreme Military Council. That happened after 17 days of protest. There are those that claim that the Arab Spring was originated by then President Barack Obama. In 2013, the Vatican affirmed that Pope Benedict XVI would resign the papacy as a result of his advanced age. Also in 2013, militants claiming to be from the Sultanate of Sulu invaded Lahad Datu district, Sabah, Malaysia, beginning the Lahad Datu standoff. In 2014, a military transport plane crashes in a mountainous area of El Bougai province in eastern Algeria, kills 77 people. 2015, a university student was murdered as she resisted an attempted rape in Turkey. Sparked nationwide protests and public outcry against harassment and violence against women. 2016, a man shoots 7 people dead in an education center in Jizan province in Saudi Arabia. 2017, North Korea test fires a ballistic missile across the Sea of Japan. 2018, Saratov Airlines Flight 703 crashes near Moscow. 71 deaths and no survivors. In 2020, COVID-19 pandemic. World Health Organization officially names the corona outbreak as COVID-19, with the virus being designated as SARS-CoV-2. 2024 Finnish presidential election. Alexander Stubb is elected as the 13th president of Finland. Well, that ends our history segment. We're going to hit a few news stories before we get into our main topic. The USAID has come under fire. Turns out that a lot of unregulated programs being funded to the tune of tens of millions of dollars. An IDF soldier was interviewed. He said on one patrol in a village he wouldn't name, They found sniper rifles, rocket launchers, everything you can imagine, and a lot of aid packages stamped USAID. We've been supporting the Hamas. Somebody's leaking ISIS schedule when they're going to raid various places for illegals. Tom Homan believes the ICE raid leaks are coming from inside, as the Aurora leaker, as he's called, is closer to being identified. These leaks are tipping off violent gang members, and it's derailed a lot of planned arrests. The first leak in Aurora is under current investigation, and they think they've identified the individual in question, just haven't released the name yet. This leaked information allowed members of Venezuelan's gang Tren de Aragua to evade capture last week as federal agents were met with mostly empty apartments and buildings. In the end, about 30 people were taken into custody, even though they planned to arrest many times that number. President Trump gave Hamas a deadline of this Saturday to release all hostages or hell's going to break loose. Israeli cabinet has backed his demand. It's time to quit playing. Pressure is mounting on CBS and Paramount as the judge declares the motion to dismiss Trump's $20 million lawsuit moot, which means there's no point moving forward with it. He filed a $10 billion lawsuit against CBS in October, alleged election interference over its handling of the 60 Minutes interview, accused the network of aiding his Democratic rival through deceptive editing just days before the election. And last week, his legal team amended the original lawsuit, following the release of the unedited transcript and the raw footage of that controversial 60-minute interview. The lawsuit added CBS News' parent company, Paramount Global, as a defendant, citing how the 60 Minutes election special is platformed on its Paramount Plus streaming service. And it added Representative Ronnie Jackson, Republican of Texas, as a plaintiff and increased the damage amount to $20 billion. Russia just freed Martin Fogel after 3.5 years, thanks directly to President Trump. House Democrats are facing backlash for promoting physical violence at Doge protest. Congressman Mafuni's office claims his street fight rhetoric was about winning hearts, minds, and souls of disaffected voters. But the wording he is using is calling for something else. He's represented Maryland's 7th Congressional District since 2020. Said at a rally in Baltimore on Monday outside the Social Security office, it's to be a congressional fight, a constitutional fight, a legal fight, and on days like this, a street fight. Well, a lot less rhetoric than that was used to have Congress opening a full-scale investigation into the January 6th debacle. The Chinese spy balloon that was shot down off the Carolina coast in 2023 was discovered to be equipped with technology from at least 5 U.S. firms. Let's see. The black victimization cult in America's found a new home. Rooftop Revelations thought it was good riddance when they heard that Boston University is closing its Ibrahim X. Kendi's Center of Anti-Racist Research. But they've just moved it to the Howard University's Institute for Advanced Study. High-sounding names. Costco's CEO is refusing to back off of DEI. Joy Behar has demanded Democrats get off their butts and start ambushing the airwaves. She doesn't think there's enough opposition to President Trump. Now, let's see what happened now. According to the most recent poll, Biden is the least popular living president. Until recently, people looked at Barack Obama as a god. I think that's come to an end. 57% of those polled had an unfavorable view of Biden. Just 39% had a favorable view. 59% had a positive view of Obama. President Obama and former President Bill Clinton both viewed favorably by 48% of the survey. I don't know why so many people think Obama is a god, because he was not a very good president. Prince Harry and Meghan Markle are facing issues. They made a $250,000 donation to Ashley Biden, President Biden's daughter, and then tried to deduct it. Now, let's see what else. Has pushed back on Morning Joe, sounding an alarm on what he calls a constitutional crisis. Well, we've got some federal judges, and federal judges, of course, think they're God, opposing executive orders. They're trying to legislate from the bench. I know here in El Paso we got some judges who ought to be flipping burgers. At the Super Bowl halftime show, something that wasn't shown on TV, a member of the backup dancers jumped up on top of a vehicle and unfurled a Palestinian flag. He wanted people to know he was in solidarity with the people of Palestine. The New York Democrats are having a cow about Trump's plan to shut down the education department. All those people are going to have to get real jobs. Extremist groups, it turns out, have gotten millions and millions of dollars from USAID. That was discovered in a multi-year study. They funded extremist groups tied to designated terrorist organizations and their allies. This study came from the Middle East Forum, a U.S. think tank. It was a multi-year study of USAID and State Department spending. found $164 million of approved grants to radical organizations. At least $122 million go into groups aligned with designated terrorists and their supporters. Billions more of federal dollars have been given to leading American aid charities who have consistently failed to vet their terror-tied local partners and don't show much interest in improving their practices. Now, the Middle East Forum's report focuses specifically on funds from USAID and the State Department that wound up in the hands of radical groups and organizations tied to terrorism. In fact, USAID was found to have given more than $900,000 to a Gaza-based terror charity called Bayada Association for Environment Development. This funding began in 2016, and its most recent allocations made just days before Hamas attacked Israel on October 7, 2023. Bayada describes itself as a non-governmental organization that works to build a civil society on the Gaza Strip. Founded in 2007, shortly after Hamas's takeover of the Gaza Strip, operates in close cooperation with the Hamas regime. Its own 2021 annual report notes coordination in meetings with Hamas's Ministry of Interior, Ministry of Works, Ministry of Social Affairs, and Ministry of Agriculture. Other funds that they received came through organizations such as Catholic Relief Services and medical groups. But according to the report, USAID coordinates directly with Bayada as well. There was also a $12.5 million grant in 2024 to the American Near East Refugee Agency, which is a long-standing partner of Bayada. The American Near East Refugee Agency is an NGO established in 1968 in an effort to assist refugees after the Arab-Israeli War. Well, the report found staffers with this group have repeatedly and publicly posted violent ideas without apparent censure from top charity officials. Comments on social media posted by employees included calling on God to erase the Jews, expressing support for the brave prisoners in Israel's jail during the Hamas-Israel war, and describing October 7th, 2023 as a beautiful morning. This has to stop, people. On the one hand, our official position is we oppose terrorism. On the other hand, we're shoveling money out the door to them as fast as we can go. USAID won't even tell how much they gave the Unlimited Friends organization, a Gaza terror charity that operates with help from Hamas. The head of that charity promises to cleanse their land of impure Jews. USAID gave millions to Islamic Relief, whose Gaza branch openly works with senior terrorist officials in Gaza, including Hamas Politburo member Ghazi Hamad, who promises that Hamas would repeat the October 7th attacks time and time again until Israel is annihilated. And our government is giving them taxpayer dollars. Well, USAID funds totaling $125,000 were found in the hands of the Islamic Relief Agency in 2015, despite the U.S. Treasury designating the group as a global terrorist organization in 2004. So USAID just kind of marches to a different drummer. And the report makes it clear that the USAID knew of the Islamic Relief Agency's terrorist activities. In fact, in 2010, the executive director of Islamic Relief Agency's U.S. branch and a board member pleaded guilty to money laundering, theft of public funds, conspiracy, and several other charges. That was discussed on the USAID's own website. But we're still shoveling money out to them as fast as we can go. This is taxpayer dollars. If they want to donate their own money out of their own pocket, be my guest. But this is taxpayer dollars. The Hamas also has a pay-for-slay program going on. Those who take part get rewarded for all the Jews they kill. That is criminal. The Walt Disney World's Magic Kingdom has gone back to normal operations after a power outage. That outage caused numerous ride closures on Monday evening. Now, the cause of the power outage is not being disclosed, but one point on Monday evening, 18 rides were closed. Disney spokesperson said people were watching fireworks later in the day when the power outage occurred. Anybody who was on the ride when it went down was safely escorted off, and the park's after-hours event went on as planned. Well, let's see. Well, the Daytona 500 is referred to as NASCAR Super Bowl. Has gotten a lot of bad press. Donald Trump is a follower of it. All right. You know, one of the things that I've read about with great interest was the Battle of Los Angeles. Now, the government wants to chalk it up to war jitters, but a lot of the people who were witnesses are not the type to be swept up in war jitters. The late C. Scott Littleton, professor of anthropology at Occidental College in L.A., was one of the witnesses. And though he was not somebody who studied UFOs, he believed what he saw that night was more than just a stray blimp or a misidentified warplane. According to him, he was a child living with his parents in a house near Hermosa Beach, California, when the anti-aircraft fire woke everybody up. Looked at the window and could see flashes of anti-aircraft fire and frantic scanning of searchlight beams. Now, gunners routinely practiced on targets towed behind aircraft, so anti-aircraft fire was nothing new. But something about the ferocity of this barrage and the confusion of searchlights, as well as the timing, caused Littleton some concern. His father was a neighborhood airway warden and had received no alerts about a drill, and he tried to call in. Littleton's mother took the first steps to investigate. She walked out of the makeshift bunker in their basement and headed down toward the beach. So Littleton followed along, half afraid his mother would tell him to go back to the basement. And shrapnel was falling all over the beach, and there was a roar of planes overhead, which Littleton thought might, of course, be enemy aircraft. Later on, he discovered they were pursuit planes. That was before he saw what the planes were pursuing. Looking out on the Pacific Ocean, Littleton and his mother saw an object floating above the sea. It was a silvery, lozenge-shaped bug hanging in the night sky. No moon that night, but there was no mistaking this object for any kind of celestial body. One thing the witnesses immediately noticed was that the object was nearly motionless. It hovered completely still. It's estimated to hung between 4,000 and 8,000 feet above the ocean. Now, the ability to hover without making a sound was something new as far as Littleton was concerned. The gunners were obviously looking at the same object that he and his mother were. Explosions from the anti-aircraft shells concentrated on that object. Streams of spotlights had the object in their sights as well. In fact, one famous photo shows the craft poised in the crosshairs of several spotlight beams. Meanwhile, shrapnel from these shots began to rain down on both the mother and the son, who went back into the house so the falling debris wouldn't hit them. Littleton did notice one thing of importance, though. Despite the gunfire, whatever this was took no defensive action to get out of harm's way, or any aggressive action against the gunners, for that matter. And both seemed to be in its capabilities. None of the rounds that appeared to land on any of the craft had any effect whatsoever. After taking a brutal fusillade from everything the Allied military could throw at it, whatever this was began to drift unscathed toward Redondo Beach. And the family noticed some other strange activity that night. But after the UFO disappeared and the gunfire stopped, they heard aircraft engines roaring overhead. They seemed to be following whatever this was. Littleton guessed the engine sounds were P-38s from a nearby airfield. He thought they were probably called out to give chase to whatever this was. And other witnesses confirmed the Littleton's account. Artist and interior decorator identified only as Katie volunteered as an airway warden for West L.A. And she was sleeping in the early morning hours of February 25th when her air raid supervisor called and told her to be on the lookout for a plane flying very near her home. So Katie went to the nearest window and looked out and saw exactly what her supervisor described. But it didn't look like anything described in any enemy aircraft identification chart. She said it was huge. It was enormous. During the air raid, authorities issued an order to turn out the lights, which had an unforeseen effect that UFO hunters in urban areas hardly ever experience. Los Angeles, which was a city of bright lights, went dark, offering unmatched vistas of sky and stars. And in that uncluttered sky, Katie could make out a lot of details of that aircraft perfectly. She said it was a lovely pale orange and about the most beautiful thing you'd ever seen. She saw the spotlight beam zero in on the craft, which hovered in one spot for a long time, just as Littleton described. She also saw other aircraft in the area, but noticed they turned around shortly before the barrage of anti-aircraft guns opened fire on the object. Well, the next morning, those charged with the defense of L.A. issued a hasty written report about the incident. According to the report, it wasn't Japanese. And if you read between the lines, it was definitely not a spacecraft from another planet. As I said, the defense officials blamed the incident on war jitters, or a untethered balloon, or weather conditions. Of course, most of the eyewitnesses didn't buy the official line, and it still remains one of World War II's most hotly debated incidents. Well, another bizarre aspect of World War II was a so-called Philadelphia experiment. It's said to be an experiment to see how far reality can be twisted and transformed. And there are several variations to the story, but according to the primary one, USS Eldridge, a Cannon-class destroyer escort, was launched July 25th, 1943. It was docked in Philadelphia Navy Yard. Sometime after its launch and before its commissioning, rumors reported that technicians were outfitting the ship with advanced technology. Now, some sailors believed it was advanced radar. Others heard the equipment was something to do with not just the new technology, but actually physics. Other rumors claimed that Albert Einstein and quantum physicists were involved, and the physicists were basing technology on a unified field theory, a theory that would unite the small world of quantum physics with the huge world of swirling galaxies and the universe itself. It's also said the technology could bend time and space. Well, the military was interested in the theory because they believed they could make warships invisible, both to the eye and to radar. The Navy believed this cloaking device would make their ships impervious to attack enemy boats and planes. Other theories suggested it was the work of the famous Serbian scientist Nikola Tesla. It was said he was guiding the experiment, that the true goal was to master gravity. Well, according to the stories, a few follow experiments were successfully carried out. These reports stated the ship nearly disappeared, leaving a greenish fog lingering in the harbor momentarily. There were some troubling warning signs, though. Sailors on board the ship said they felt sick after the experiment. Other experiments were scheduled and the equipment was quickly reset. And things are said to have taken a very unexpectedly scary turn, according to several experts, including Charles Berlitz, who wrote the Philadelphia experiment, which is the primary work on this case. On one account, the equipment either was not calibrated at all or not calibrated correctly, and the ship completely disappeared during an experiment. But in actuality, it didn't vanish. It teleported. According to some reports, witnesses said they saw a brilliant blue flash and the massive Eldridge was gone. About 200 miles away, sailors steaming through the Atlantic aboard a merchant marine ship, the SS Andrew Farusith, were stunned to see the ship appear instantly in front of them. They watched the destroyer for a few minutes, and then as quickly as it appeared, it was gone. Again. Back in Philadelphia, the stunned experimenters stared at the empty spot on the ocean where the Eldridge had been just a few seconds ago. They waited for 10 minutes, according to some sources. Each moment passed by more painful than the last, and then lo and behold, the Eldridge reappeared. Whether or not the experiment was a success depends on the source, though. More disturbing reports suggest the injuries were horrific, going far beyond the nausea experienced by a few sailors. According to some stories, the men were melted into metal equipment, their arms and legs welded to the floor and the walls of the ship. A number of deaths were reported. Those who believe in the Philadelphia experiment offer the explanation that gruesome injuries and deaths may be tied to why the experiment, which were on the surface successful, were quickly halted and results made top secret. It also suggests the intelligence officials didn't want this new powerful technology, which they were obviously couldn't control, to fall into enemy hands. So everything was made top secret. Then, years later, in 1955, the story began to leak out. It all started when astronomer and researcher Morris K. Jessup got a strange reply from a reader of his book. He wrote a book called The Case for the UFO. And a copy of his book was mailed to the Office of Naval Research with strange annotations in the margins. And the Office of Naval Research contacted Jessup. His book explored theories that could explain the propulsion of flying saucers. And flying saucers during this period of time, of course, were front page news. Well, from what Jessup could decipher, the annotations were from somebody who was familiar with an experiment that had tested some of Jessup's theories on propulsion, anti-gravity, and electromagnetic manipulation. And this marked-up copy of Jessup's book, along with a string of letters from the writer, revealed a person who was poised perilously between fascinating and insane. Well, according to the story, this man's name was Carlos Allende, also known as Carl Allen. Man, it broke the news, or the tale, as it were, about the Philadelphia experiment. And those letters, he went on to say he witnessed at least one bizarre outcome of the Philadelphia experiment. He was one of the crew members on board the SS Andrew Farusith when the Eldridge appeared out of nowhere. Well, Allende's subsequent story seemed unbelievable to Jessup, but he found that if the man's story was made up, he was a brilliant hoaxer. Allende included his sailor identification information that confirmed he was indeed on board the Andrew Forsyth at the time of the incident. And it wasn't just Jessup that wanted to meet this mysterious man. The Navy was interested as well. Allende proved to be a difficult quarry, even for those naval intelligence experts. Over time, of course, his story became mixed with folklore and fake lore from hoaxers. Later resurfaced with more information and contacted UFO experts, but these disclosures only muddled the already murky story of the Eldritch. Of course, skeptics appeared immediately with possible explanations. They said that indeed the Philadelphia experiment was a test of invisibility, but it was a test to make the ship invisible to enemy torpedoes, not to teleport the ship back in time and melt people to the decks. Well, my setup here is collapsing. That's not good. A lot of the one of those little stands for my iPad that also works brilliantly. But if you hit it just right, it collapses. Well, in fact, according to the skeptics, there was no equipment or power source among the experimental equipment on board the ship that could perform such a feat. In fact, they said the electromagnetic technology was simply meant to confuse the torpedoes and make them miss their mark. So the ship was, in fact, invisible, at least to torpedoes. But, like a bizarre form of the telephone game, as rumors of the experiment passed from sailor to sailor on board the ship and through the base, tales about the experiment became more bizarre and more elaborate. Eventually, there was a rumor that the scientists intended to make the ship completely invisible, not just to torpedoes. Propelled by Allende's testimony, the Philadelphia experiment became one of World War II's most intriguing conspiracies, one that continues to be debated among both believers and skeptics even today. Well, we've talked about ghosts on battleships and ghosts in trenches and dozens of other manifestations of the paranormal during World War II. But there's another aspect to this global conflict. Historians and paranormal theorists also list the many bizarre, often unbelievable coincidences and stories of deadly curses as proof of the World War II's haunted legacy. We're going to talk about some of those. The first one was the curse of Ramerlane. For that, we go to the Uzbekistan city of Samarkand. A group of Soviet scientists and archaeologists were huddled together outside a mound of earth they dug up on their quest to find the tomb of one of history's greatest leaders and most powerful military minds. There's a group of writers, photographers, and cinematographers were nearby. They were called in to be part of the expedition and document this historic excavation. And from what the writers were told, the scientists were about to open the tomb of Timur, better known to the Western world as Ramerlane. Well, he was a conqueror to his allies, and his enemies referred to him as a butcher. He was a Turkish Mongolian chief who waged war across most of Asia and became the absolute most important ruler of his time when he defeated the Mamluks of Egypt and Syria. When he died in 1405, the ruler's ability to control the people of Eurasia didn't diminish. It continued in what you might say was a supernatural sense. After the final stone sealed his tomb and the last shovel of earth was put in place, it was said the construction team added one final piece to an everlasting memorial: a curse. This curse, according to folklorists, was simple. Open up the tomb and you'll unleash a horde of hell on the world. Russian research team stood in front of the last obstacle leading them to what most of them privately declared the greatest archaeological find since the opening of King Tut's tomb in 1923. It was June 19th, 1941. The team rolled a stone from the burial vault and entered the warrior's burial chamber. Next day, they removed the large jade stone that rested on top of Tamerlane's grave itself. Instantly, that tomb was filled with an acrid scent. All the scientists gagged and coughed. As men of science, the researchers found a natural reason for the smell. The ingredients have been embalming fluid, they said. Resins and rose and frankincense and caused the foul smell. After all, Tamerlane had died on a journey to China. To prepare for his burial back in Samarkand, he would have been embalmed. The team had read the story of the smells that arose during the excavation of Tut's tomb, but they were forced to admit that the team had discovered that Tut's remains said the scent was sweet, not grossly acrid. And on that note, we've come to the end of today's show. We've run out of time. We'll be talking about the curse of Tamerlane in tomorrow's show. Until then, this is Ken Hudnall for the Ken Hudnall Show saying have a truly great evening. And don't forget, go to Cheesecake Outlet and have some cheesecake. You won't be sorry. Tell them Ken sent you. 404 Arizona. Till tomorrow, this is Ken Hudnall for the Ken Hudnall Show saying have a truly great evening.